Eyewitness News, the Chicago area's leading news, with Joel Daly, Linda Yu, Jim Rose, and Jerry Taft.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
And topping our news, a tragic fire on Chicago's west side has claimed the lives of a woman and her 2-year-old daughter. It happened very quickly, and as Channel 7's Sylvia Perez reports, family members tried unsuccessfully to fight the flames.
I went and tried to go back there, and I asked the police, she said it wasn't nobody back there, because she had searched back there, and I told her she was lying, because the back door was high in the room. I told her, look behind the door.
The fire happened too quickly. Family members are still trying to get over the shock. Dead are 25-year-old Yolanda Walker and her 2-year-old child, Alicia. It started in the rear of the third-floor apartment about 12:30, possibly in the pantry. Everyone but Yolanda and her baby managed to escape.
She went in to get the baby out of the back bedroom, and she was caught in there herself, and both the child and the mother died of smoke inhalation.
Investigators are still trying to figure out the cause. Yolanda's uncle is speculating that a newly installed hot water tank is to blame.
That's the only thing I know, that they had changed recently in the last 12 hours, that maybe, something could have been not real tight,
There were at least 3 people in the apartment when the fire started. One of them was Alma Walker. She says she tried to fight the fire herself. Walker was Yolanda's aunt. She says she was trying to control the situation when police arrived at the scene. A policewoman had to hold her back from running into the area.
I just came out the room and went in the kitchen. That's when I seen the closet was burning. Then that's when I started asking her where everybody was at. And I was trying to put it out, but I couldn't.
Authorities say the fire spread easily because the apartment was filled with trash and clothing, but crews were able to put out the flames very quickly. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to save the life of a mother and her child. Sylvia Perez, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Area residents say they told firefighters there were still people in the apartment, but the firefighters did not believe them. A department spokesman denies those reports.
Psychiatric evaluations have now been ordered for a Chicago man accused of murdering his ex-girlfriend. 26-year-old Ali Michael Badayin is being held without bond. He is charged with 1 count of first-degree murder and 1 count of home invasion in the murder of Jackie Goodman, who was found dead in a Lincoln Park transient hotel on Wednesday. Authorities believe that Badayin may try to hurt himself. Police say that several clues at the crime scene led them to the suspect.
Now politics. Independent presidential candidate Ross Perot is defending his account of alleged GOP dirty tricks aimed at sabotaging his campaign. Perot stormed into a morning briefing today and delivered an angry statement defending his conduct. While refusing to reveal who informed him of the alleged Republican plot, Perot lashed out at the media for questioning his accusations.
They throw dust in the air to distract the other gorilla from the real issue. This is what I call gorilla dust that we're throwing in the air. The real issues, you know what they are for the American people. I have to come back over here today. I am sick and tired of you all questioning my integrity without a basis for it. I am sick and tired of you ignoring the people who can confirm the articles when you print or run your stories.
President Bush's camp is calling Perot's accusations preposterous and outrageous. Yesterday, Mr. Bush denied the claims, and today he's back on the campaign trail attempting to focus on other issues. In Denver this morning, he addressed a hardware dealers convention and talked about his plans for the country. But in North Carolina, the president's spokesman had plenty to say about Mr. Perot.
There's really nothing we could say. It's so crazy that he seems to have latched onto this theory, much like other people latch onto UFO theories, and he seems to believe it.
Fitzwater challenged the media to prove Perot wrong and also said the Texas billionaire is delusional and paranoid. Yesterday, Perot told a crowd of supporters he originally dropped out of the race because the GOP was planning a smear campaign against his family. Linda?
It is a little early to tell what impact the new charges will have in the polls, but with just over 1 week before the November election, it appears that the race is getting tighter. The latest ABC News tracking poll finds that Clinton is still ahead of President Bush, but his lead has been cut to 10 points. Clinton's support has dropped 5 points from the previous poll, while the president and Ross Perot have both gained. Again, this poll was taken before the latest charges coming from the Perot camp. Meantime, Clinton is campaigning down south as he tries to hold on to his lead. Governor is taking a bus tour of North Carolina. This morning, Clinton and running mate Al Gore held a town hall meeting. Clinton said it is very important for the president to keep in touch with Americans. One member of the audience asked Clinton if he knew the average price of blue jeans, of gasoline, and bread. Clinton correctly answered all three questions.
This day produced two interesting pictures of our northern neighbor, Canada, a nation that now has a province looking to split off and form its own country. While this afternoon, thousands of fans in Toronto gathered to honor Canada's newest national heroes. The Toronto Blue Jays won the World Series in dramatic fashion Saturday night, sending baseball's championship outside of the United States for the first time ever. But as that celebration was ongoing, voters went to the polls across the large country to cast ballots in a very important election. On the ballot, constitutional reforms aimed at discouraging French-speaking Quebec from seeking independence. The reform package also calls for a number of changes that would affect the other 9 provinces and 2 territories. This referendum is non-binding, but if it fails in any one province, it will not be approved by the legislature.
Overseas, a Korean lawmaker is claiming that CIA documents show there may have been survivors from the downing of a Korean Airlines plane back in 1983. Western officials believe that a Soviet warplane shot that jet down when it strayed into Soviet airspace. Documents allegedly show that the plane stayed aloft for 12 minutes after it was hit. There is no verification that the documents are authentic. In the Middle East, Israeli warplanes, helicopters, and artillery pounded targets in southern Lebanon. This in retaliation for a bombing attack on Sunday. 5 Israeli soldiers were killed with a bomb in an Israeli-occupied buffer zone. 8 others were injured. This was the deadliest attack against Israeli forces in 2 years. Israeli officials believe that Syria has been assisting the Arab guerrillas who took responsibility for that attack. And United Nations sources say a team of weapons inspectors has asked the Iraqi government if it is still harboring arms sites. The UN has been trying to force Iraq into disclosing information on its weaponry. Officials are calling the current UN inspection of Iraq very important. A positive report from inspectors could possibly lead to a lifting of a UN-imposed trade embargo.
A big business story. After weeks of rumors, the chairman of General Motors today officially announced his resignation. In a statement, Robert Stempel said he made the decision in the best interests of the company. Stempel has been with General Motors for 34 years. He will remain chairman until a successor is named. Some analysts say Stempel was forced to resign to help restore General Motors to profitability. Sunny and pleasant, that's what Jerry Taft says we can expect. His forecast is next.
Also, the man who brought King of the Road to life has passed away. A little later, concern at a Harvard school over the death of a student. And Mr. Food shows us what to do with leftover spaghetti.
We get letter after letter from people who can't make ends meet. We even had an entire audience of people who couldn't pay their bills.
I was so desperate, Oprah. I can't deal with it anymore.
Help is on the way. This single father makes $26,000 a year. He owns a $180,000 home, 2 trucks, a trailer, and a boat.
If you manage your money right, you can do it too.
If you can't pay your bills, you can't afford to miss the next Oprah.
At 9, only on Channel 7.
Astronauts on board the space shuttle Columbia are in orbit for a 5th day. The crew is experimenting with metals to see how they react to weightlessness. About 40 samples of gold, silver, lead, and other materials were melted down, then cooled, so that the solidified metals can then be analyzed on Earth. The shuttle mission will be continuing for 5 more days.
Kind of casual. Looked like the guy's working without a shirt. But not quite shirtless weather, but very nice over the weekend.
Oh, we had a great Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
Did you have a great Thursday and Friday?
I certainly did. I was outside every day. Now that I'm back indoors, slightly colder air coming in for the next couple of days. Actually, we'll have highs midweek right around the 50 mark, which is a little below normal. Normal high is 59, so a little bit cooler as we have a push of Canadian air coming into the area. But it's not super cold. And there's certainly no snow in the forecast yet, so let's not complain too much. Here's a look at the satellite showing the clouds that moved in overnight into this morning. We did see a little bit of sunshine developing during the afternoon, but you can see quite a few clouds, especially to the south and west of us, and embedded in those clouds, we do have some showers and storms down to the south. 54 in Chicago, 55 in Milwaukee, 60 right now in Madison, 55 up in Green Bay, 63 down in Springfield. And here's a look at the national radar showing some of the showers in portions of Missouri into western Illinois, the heaviest showers and thunderstorms in Arkansas and Texas. But other than that, a good portion of the nation enjoying some pretty decent skies today. And I'll show you the national satellite in a second. Waukegan 51, Wheaton 56, Chesterton 55, along with Midway. At the lakefront, it's 52. Officially at O'Hare, 54. The wind northeast at 8. The barometer rising, and the humidity right now at 55%. Actually, a pretty decent day. High today, 59, which is normal for this time of year. Normal high is 59. Last year's high, 54. The record high, 84, set in 1963. The record low, 22. Sunset this evening at 4:53. So we have had a little bit of a cool front that moved through this morning, shifted the winds around to the north-northwest, bringing in pleasantly cool air. Big high pressure moving in for the next 3 to 4 days. Actually, most of the week, we should see quite a bit of sunshine. Here's the national satellite, as I mentioned earlier, and you can see the showers and thunderstorms down to the south of us, and we're starting to see clearing skies around here for later this afternoon into tonight. Here's tomorrow's map showing rain down to the south, a little bit of rain and even light snow up to the north of us. This system pushes toward us for Wednesday night, possibly Thursday morning. At this point, it looks like most of the precipitation with this would be to the north of us, a slight chance for a shower early Thursday, but temperatures really over the next few days will be a little bit cooler. We'll be in the 50s tomorrow, and then after Tuesday, another shot of that cool air with that next system will drop temperatures a little bit for Wednesday and Thursday. Let's take a look at our forecast. First of all, tonight, clear skies, cooler. Overnight lows 44 along the lake, 38 inland. North winds 5 to 10. Then for tomorrow, mostly sunny and pleasant with a high of 58, so about normal tomorrow. Tomorrow night down to 40 degrees. And then on Wednesday, increasing clouds, seasonable temperatures once again in the 50s, and then a little bit colder after that. That's it.
That's it?
That's
All
it.
right, thanks, Jerry. Controversial filmmaker Spike Lee has a new clothing store and also some disdain for the press. In Los Angeles today, Lee unveiled his store called Spike's Joint West. When asked if a percentage of the profits would be going to charity, Lee had this to say.
Let's talk about the positive. Would you ever think to ask Madonna that question if you had a chance to interview her? Why not? Why not? Why not? Why is it? No, why is it? Is it because I'm black?
Lee says he would rather highlight the fact that everything from the architecture to public relations for his store is being done within the African-American community. Lee opened a similar clothing store on Melrose, California yesterday, and he hopes to open another one in South Central Los Angeles. Overseas, some Australians feel they are seeing a little too much of Madonna, and they don't want to see any more. The Australian state of Queensland is expected to become the second in that nation to restrict sales of the performer's book, Sex. Last week, the state of Western Australia restricted sales of Sex to adult bookstores. Officials say that the moves came following complaints from the public. And Roger Miller, the man who brought us the finger-snapping tune King of the Road, has died of cancer at the age of 56. The award-winning singer-songwriter rose to fame in the 1960s with a string of bouncy, humorous hits. He also wrote the music for the Tony Award-winning Broadway show Big River. As a teenager, his career started in Nashville, where he eventually wrote songs for many country music stars.
Lord, when all my work is done, bless my life and grant me one old friend. At least one.
Interesting story about Roger. He was inspired for his most famous song as he was leaving Chicago. Back in 1960, he was looking for a song, and he saw a sign on Route 66. He was heading back to Idaho. The sign said, "Trailers for sale or rent, rooms to let 50 cents.
Really?
And that's
That
how
became the song?
that became King of the Road.
Great story.
When the news at 4 continues, Karen Meyer will tell us about an organization that is helping people to help themselves.
I'm Al Michaels. As the Buffalo Bills chase the Miami Dolphins in the AFC East, suddenly a very vital game coming their way tonight as they go to the Meadowlands to take on the New York Jets. It'll be Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, James Lofton and company as the Bills meet the New York Jets tonight at 9 Eastern on ABC's Monday Night Football.
Then watch Eyewitness News immediately following the game, only on Channel 7.
Millions of young people leave home each year to live more independent lives. It's a big move. But many people with disabilities can't enjoy this freedom because they don't know how to go about it. Here's Karen Meyer to explain. Karen?
Well, Joe and Linda, that's because most people with disabilities lead a rather sheltered life. But when they're ready to go on their own, or just want a little more independence at any age, there's an organization ready to help them. It's called Progress Center for Independent Living. There were 300 of these centers throughout the United States. There were 18 of them in Illinois. Like all the others, the center in Oak Park helps people help themselves. Counselors with disabilities teach their clients, they call them consumers, how to do simple things, such as catch a bus, rent an apartment, and complex things, like setting goals and reaching them.
They come to us to be able to say, I want to take control and direct the course of my life.
Susan Adams reached that point when she was left on her own. For the first time in her life, Susan had to balance a checkbook and pay bills.
I was not doing well living independently by myself. And I didn't like the idea of going in a nursing home. And the Progress Center has been great help.
The center's goal is to help people with disabilities have greater independence.
You have to understand the concept of independent living. It just means something more independent than they're doing now. So the question can take any shape. Doing a little more than they're doing or living completely on their own.
To achieve that independence, the center provides information on what services are available in the community and assists people with disabilities in a myriad of other ways. The Progress Center also has a speaking bureau and works with the community on a number of issues relating to people with disabilities.
Karen, with centers all over the country such as this, do they have any influence in Washington?
Yeah, actually, there's the national organization which has that lobbyists for its positions on Capitol Hill. It's very powerful on the national level.
Good. Glad to hear it. Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Next up, there will be a little less of Mike Ditka each week. Jim Rose is going to explain why when we come back. And Jim Harbaugh lets a hot streak carry the Bears to an impressive win over their rivals.
Thursday, this big city cop and his wife told us one story.
There is no way that I believe they were having sex with clients for money.
The prostitutes told us another story.
There is sex for sale.
What's the real story? Watch The Escort Connection Thursday. And on the next Inside Edition,
Nancy Glass takes us to Paris and inside the high-price world of high fashion. Don't miss Inside Edition.
Inside Edition, tomorrow at 3 on Channel 7.
Seeing less of Mike Ditka, I thought maybe he was going on a diet.
No, it has nothing to do with his food intake. Perhaps he wants his players to get a little more recognition for their exploits. It appears that Bears head coach Mike Ditka is still mad at the media, despite his team's 2-game winning streak. Ditka has canceled his regular Monday news conference for the remainder of the season. That's the session that he walked out of last week after being asked yet another question about his sideline dressing down of Jim Harbaugh during the Vikings game on October the 4th. It is ironic that since that game, Harbaugh has played almost flawless football. Yesterday, the Packers stopped the Bear running attack cold for 3 quarters. But Harbaugh completed 17 of 24 passes for 194 yards with no interceptions to lead his team to its first road win of the season, 30-10. Harbaugh simply dominated the pack with his ball-controlled passing. So are we witnessing the birth of Air Ditka?
Couldn't run the ball. I'm just be honest with you. That's disappointing to me. But you've got to do what you can do. And I think if you can't run, then you better make sure you can pass. You better be able to do one or the other anyway. So that worked out pretty good. And I thought Greg gave him the tools, and Jim responded tremendously and had a good game. And he kept the ball and ran with it a few times instead of throwing it into a crowd for grabs. And I thought that was great.
We're a little bit different team now. I think we got the ability with the passing game to take a little of the pressure off the run.
He's a confident player. He's a tremendous competitor, and I think that, he's 6 or 7 years in the league, but he's getting better every day, and he's a good player now, and the way he's progressing, he'll be a great player.
By the way, those were Mike Ditka's comments at the postgame from yesterday. After 3 weeks of playing disappointing hockey, the Campbell Conference champion Chicago Blackhawks vented all the frustration of occupying 5th place in the Norris Division by trouncing Detroit at the stadium last night. Stung by Coach Darryl Sutter's criticism of his play Thursday, Jeremy Roenick set the tone for the game, scoring in the first 25 seconds on a great hustle play. And Roenick got an unassisted tally in the 3rd period after stealing the puck at center ice to help salt away the win. This time Sutter liked what he saw.
He was operating at full speed tonight. When he's doing that, he's a tough player to defend.
It was a good boost for us. Obviously, we wanted to get a jump start. You know, it doesn't mean that we're going to win the next game, too. We just have to put this one behind us. We have to work hard this week and come back Thursday against Philly and hopefully put a better effort together.
The Bulls crowd in the backcourt should get trimmed down during this final week of preseason. Phil Jackson has 3 rookies battling veteran Trent Tucker for his 4th and 5th guard slots. JoJo English was very impressive, scoring 10 points down the stretch in the win over Denver on Saturday. Gerald Madkins played well with the first unit in Michael Jordan's spot in the 2 weekend victories. And second-round draft choice Corey Williams continued his strong play, making the choice of who to cut, a very tough one for Phil Jackson. You know, you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone working in Toronto this afternoon. Our friends north of the border are having quite a party in celebration of the first ever World Series victory by the Blue Jays. Toronto beat the Braves in Atlanta in Game 6, and they're having quite a party in the Sky Dome at this hour. And speaking of crowds, Linda Summers gave an assist to the thousands who lined the Chicago Marathon course for her first win ever at that distance yesterday. Summers said she started out the 26.2-mile race too quickly, but the fans made her forget that toward the finish.
Spectators were great too, especially in the last 2 miles when it just feels like you're not going to be able to finish the race and you can barely hear yourself think with all the screaming out there, and it just sort of picked you up and carried you.
Meanwhile, Ireland's Ursula Nochter, who placed 2nd last year, finished 4th this time around. But that was quite an achievement. In February, Nochter had cancerous lymph nodes removed from behind her right kneecap. Doctors put her chances for survival of the melanoma at the time at 10%. And she made quite a recovery in running that race. That's sports.
Thank you, Jim. The news continues after a short break. Parents at a South Suburban elementary school are concerned after a member of the student body dies from meningitis. And a Chicago man is accused of murdering his girlfriend in front of her children.
Eyewitness News at 4 continues with Joel Daly and Linda Yu.
Here's a look at the headlines on this Monday afternoon.
Chicago fire officials investigate a West Side fire that claimed the lives of a woman and her 2-year-old daughter who dies despite some heroic efforts. And independent presidential candidate Ross Perot is standing by his claim that the Republicans tried to sabotage his campaign. The White House dismisses the charges.
Also in the news, a major election to the north. Canadians voting on reforms aimed at discouraging the province of Quebec from seeking independence. And the king of the road is dead. Singer-songwriter Roger Miller died of cancer last night in Los Angeles. He was 56 years old.
And in other news today, officials in South Suburban Harvey say no teachers and children at Taft Elementary School have contracted bacterial meningitis. A 6-year-old pupil at the school died of that disease over the weekend. Channel 7's Dick Johnson has the details.
The flag at Taft Elementary School was lowered to half-staff in honor of the kindergarten boy who died so suddenly after contracting the highly contagious 90% fatal form of meningitis. The principal is confident her staff has done everything they can to prevent others from contracting it. The 20 children and teachers in close contact with the unidentified boy last week and his family have all received the proper medication here at Ingalls Memorial Hospital. That, however, does not lessen the emotional shock everyone associated with the school is suffering.
Having known his mother as a student of mine, it kind of grips at the heart, and I will take it and deal with it as a death in my own family.
To deal with the grief, the school district's crisis intervention team talked with the kindergartners and others first thing this morning.
We let our nurse, who's part of our crisis team, begin our discussion, and she talked about the disease. She was very honest about the symptoms of meningitis and exactly how the kid died and what occurred. And I brought in my friend, I Care Cat, to help the kids feel comfortable since they are kindergartners.
Since news of this case of meningococcal meningitis first broke last week, Ingalls Hospital has received hundreds of calls from naturally concerned parents, teachers, friends, neighbors, all wondering if they too could contract meningitis. The answer, with a few qualifications, is probably not.
The infection is only severe with almost direct contact. The patients, people who have not been in direct contact have no fear. I mean direct contact like 2 feet.
What's most frightening is how rapidly the boy's health declined, from flu-like symptoms early last week to a brain-dead state by Wednesday, pronounced dead on Saturday. Ian Harvey, Dick Johnson, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
And a pancake breakfast will be held Saturday morning at Taft School to help the family defray their expenses.
A mental health group wants voters to reject that proposed constitutional amendment to increase state aid to education. Executive Director Frank Anselmo of the Illinois Association of Community Mental Health Agencies said the group favors more money for schools, but he doesn't want to force the state to fund one social need and then ignore other vital services.
My biggest fear is that if the General Assembly is ordered to enact a tax increase, rather than doing it on its own, the myopic focus to provide funds only for education will leave other vital services and hundreds of thousands they serve no additional monies.
Anselmo urges more funding to treat needs such as mental and physical health problems, alcohol and drug abuse, and domestic violence. Linda?
Illinois politics now. Carol Mosley Braun and Rich Williamson began their final week of campaigning today in their battle for the U.S. Senate. Braun was sent off by Alderman Pat O'Connor, the Democratic nominee for state's attorney, and U.S. Senator Paul Simon as she left Meigs Field for a state fly-around. Today she visits colleges in East Moline and East Peoria and a union hall in Decatur. Williamson, the Republican nominee, went to a Northside play lot to endorse strong anti-crime measures. He again criticized Braun for opposing the death penalty and favoring decriminalization of marijuana. Williamson was endorsed by a group called Appealers, which opposes early release of prisoners convicted of violent offenses and prolonged court appeals by convicted killers and rapists.
Here in Chicago, bond has been set now at $250,000 for Kenneth Britt. Britt is accused of murdering his girlfriend in front of her children. Police say the victim was holding a 9-month-old baby when she was shot at point-blank range. Channel 7's Kathy Brock has details.
29-year-old Kenneth Britt is charged with first-degree murder. He wasn't married to Susan Berry, the woman he's accused of killing, but the couple lived together in this house with Berry's 11 children.
The oldest daughter said to her they had been arguing over money. When she didn't give it to him, he went back out the door, knocked, and came back, and that's when she shot him.
Berry's frightened children scooped up the baby their mother had been holding in her arms and then ran next door to the neighbors.
It was just so many of them, and they were just running and hollering and screaming. And then he come outside telling the police, yeah, I killed the, you know what.
Williams said it was like Britt was bragging. Police were on the scene almost immediately because Britt himself called 911.
He stated to the operator that he had killed his girlfriend, and he was standing with the gun in his hand.
The couple had a history of domestic problems. Police say that twice Britt was arrested for battery, and that twice Berry decided not to press charges.
When you're afraid of a man, and you just, you know, she just wanted to stick it out with him. He was just one of them crazy men that like to shoot all the time, shoot that gun off, and just got trigger happy. And he just took on out here. That's what he did.
In violence court, Britt's bond has been set at $250,000 by Judge Robert Bastone. A preliminary hearing is now set for November 17th. Kathy Brock, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Berry's children range in age from 9 months to 18 years. They are staying with the victim's sister.
Commuters in Southern California are getting an incentive to leave their cars at home. The new Metrolink rail opened in Los Angeles this morning. Thousands of passengers traveled from northern LA and Ventura counties all the way to downtown. Commuters will be riding for free this week. The system will be expanded to 3 other color counties by 1994. In Evanston, the suburb's Human Relations Commission has failed to persuade most Chicago television stations to air a controversial anti-gang message. The public service announcement has been broadcast by only one non-cable station. The theme is that African-American gangs are traitors to blacks because they kill more blacks than the Nazis or the Ku Klux Klan. Mothers Against Gangs and some other groups endorse endorsed the video, but other residents warned that it might glorify black gangs.
We have a lot more news ahead, but right now, let's go to the newsroom, where John Drury is standing by with a preview of the news at 5. John?
Well, Joel, so far so good at Cabrini Green. Over the weekend, gang members announced a truce, but Russ Ewing reports that the so-called truce does not mean much. Find out why at 5. Casino gambling is back on the table. Supporters say they're willing to compromise on a few details. A huge comet is headed our way. At least that's what some astronomers are saying. Plus, researchers develop a patch that can let drinkers know when to say when. Diane Burns and I will have that and much more at 5. Joel and Linda.
All right, John, thank you. Cancer patients who undergo chemotherapy and radiation often experience serious side effects such as hair loss and nausea. But there is another side effect that can still make patients extremely ill and in some cases force doctors to stop the life-saving treatment. Channel 7's Marianne Childers has more now in Medicine Today.
Linda and Joel, this is a side effect that is extremely common, but it's not really talked about very much. It's called mucositis, or painful mouth sores. Now, a doctor at Evanston Hospital has pioneered a program that's preventing this problem for hundreds of cancer patients. He's found that an immediate trip to the dentist for people diagnosed with cancer can significantly affect the outcome of their treatment. Gloria Harris began chemotherapy because of breast cancer in April 1990. But of all the side effects she'd been warned about, no one told her she would develop open sores in her mouth and down her throat. They were so painful she couldn't swallow food, could barely talk. It hurt too much to cry.
A lot of people don't know why they're having this, and they think it's because of the chemo. Well, it's because the body has lost its immunity to fight off, and the mouth has more bacteria than any place in your body. So it's the first to get sore.
Doctors say treatments such as radiation and chemotherapy weaken the tissues of the mouth as well as the body's immune system, making them susceptible to extensive irritation and infection.
Well, if you think of having one sore in your mouth, many people have had a canker sore. Well, these are like having hundreds of canker sores. Then they begin to get together and coalesce, and you have them under the tongue, in the cheek, and in different areas.
Some patients who can't eat because of sores lose so much weight they have to be hospitalized, and doctors have to stop treatment. To prevent this, Dr. Staffolino has instituted a program at Evanston Hospital that involves extensive dental history, exam, and assessment before cancer therapy even begins. To counteract the effects of drugs and radiation, patients are counseled on plaque control, hygiene, and proper nutrition. They're often placed on antibiotics and given special medicated rinses to keep the mouth clean. The key is prevention.
Improve the integrity of the tissues. Reduce the bacterial population of the mouth. Now they go into chemotherapy, so now they have lessened bacteria in their mouth, and now they are ready for the chemo.
But the program also works for patients like Gloria Harris to solve oral complications once they've begun.
It meant the world to me because breathing, talking, everything counted on how I felt in my throat and my mouth.
Dr. Staffolino's program is attracting nationwide attention. Over the past 6 months, more than 300 doctors in 40 states and 3 foreign countries have contacted him to learn more about it. Joel and Linda, there's a possibility this protocol could be used with other kinds of surgeries as well. For example, heart valve replacement surgery or transplant surgery in the future. Anything where you have to take a drug that compromises your immune system, this side effect's a possibility.
Makes sense.
Great, Marianne, thanks very much. Next up, there is a boom in electronics stores.
After a break, Andrew Leckie will tell us if that is good news for consumers.
In business news, sales of existing homes were down in the month of September, and they now stand at their lowest level since January. The National Association of Realtors reported the 0.9% drop in September, and sales also dropped here in the Midwest. And on the day that its chairman resigned, there is renewed speculation that General Motors will be reducing its North American car-making operations from 6 down to 4 divisions. Such a move would eliminate 10,000 white-collar jobs. This would be the second major restructuring of GM in 6 months.
The sluggish economy, of course, has caused many businesses to simply go under, and the electronics industry is no different. But there remains some fierce competition. And financial editor Andrew Leckie is here with more details. Andrew?
Just as tough as the airline industry, Joel. The consumer has been blamed for the fact the economy isn't coming out of its doldrums. Those companies that cater to the consumer have had to battle tooth and nail to get business. Consumer electronics is one of the toughest battlefields, and Chicago has become a major target.
It's been a devastating year for consumer electronics and appliances in Chicago. Longtime giant Polk Brothers went out of business. Strangled by high-interest loans, Highland Electronics gave up the ghost. Despite the carnage, new competitor Best Buy Company of Minnesota has entered the Chicago market with 10 new stores, some in former Highland locations, 8 more before Thanksgiving. Another competitor, Circuit City, enters our market next year. With Fredder, Silo, Ward's Electric Avenue, and Sears Brand Central, can anyone make money?
Highland was reported to be doing very close to $200 million with their 19 stores in the Chicagoland area. Polk Brothers, something short of $100 million, probably closer to 60 or 70 million. And with those two retailers exiting the marketplace, you create an opportunity for a new retailer.
There has been no growth in the consumer electronics industry for several years. That has resulted in a bloody battle for market share with many casualties. Expect the carnage to continue. Only the strong will survive. Best Buy uses a purely discount approach to electronics, computers, videos, and tapes with a non-commissioned sales staff. It's benefiting from low interest rates as it expands. Competitor Silo Electronics is educating its commissioned sales staff and also emphasizing product diversity. Pure electronics stores were hurt when the VCR boom ended.
The main thing that we found is that computers have been on an incredible increase. We've been able to capitalize on that with the addition of a couple of brands. Apple and IBM now are targeting the home computer market more than they ever have been. That is probably the VCR of the future, so to speak.
Retail analysts say the consumer should benefit from a market in which most everyone will match lowest prices.
The retail mentality today is low gross margin. Very, very sharp prices, and I don't think the consumer is going to do any better than that.
The bottom line for the consumer in 1992 is don't pay a lot for consumer electronics and appliances. Clip sale ads and shop around. In this brutal market, you'll get a price you like from someone. Joel and Linda.
Thanks, Andrew. After a break, Jerry Taft returns with his extended weather outlook.
And Mr. Food will tell us what to do with leftover spaghetti.
Tonight at 6, could the solution to the crime problem in Chicago's public housing be found in the suburbs? Find out how a new proposal might affect your community. Tonight on Eyewitness News at 6.
This week, the nation recalls an anniversary that could have led to worldwide catastrophe. One of the participants is still in power. Norman Ross is here with the story. Norman?
Joel, Linda, 30 years ago tomorrow, President Kennedy sat in the Oval Office awaiting Nikita Khrushchev's response to his demand that the Soviets remove all missiles from Cuba. The next day, a Sunday, Khrushchev caved in and the world stepped back from the brink of nuclear disaster. Today, Khrushchev is no longer with us, gone long from power, but after 33 years, longer than any world leader other than King Hussein of Jordan, Fidel Castro remains. But for how long?
This morning I asked Maria Torres, Cuba expert, author, and a professor of political science at DePaul University.
I've almost quit trying to predict because in 1989 we said next Christmas, in 1990 we said next Christmas, 91 next Christmas, and here we are in 92. I think some of the more important questions may be what kinds of institutions need to be helped in Cuba today to make sure that there is a peaceful transition. In Cuba, there is an amazing debate today about what should be the future of Cuba. What is interesting is that many Cubans on the island today will prefer Fidel Castro to any U.S. imposed solution. And that, I think, is something that U.S. policymakers need to be aware of. Now, I also think that Cubans that are on the outside have something to contribute, but it has to be it's based on a respectful relationship with people who are inside the island.
Last Friday, a Clinton-endorsed bill to tighten the embargo was signed by President Bush. Is that law wise?
I don't think it is. To begin with, I don't think that the U.S. Congress can legislate democracy from Cuba. It's called the Cuban Democracy Act. Most human rights activists throughout the island were outraged because they felt that it was a real violation of Cuba's sovereignty. On top of that, it tightens the embargo by not allowing U.S. companies that reside in other countries of the world to do any business with Cuba. It goes against the free trade agreement with Canada, with Mexico. The European community is also against it.
Cuba still produces great baseball players and cigars, but not much else. Unfortunately, though, she continues to build nuclear reactors with Soviet help at Cienfuegos, 90 miles from our shore. Let's hope that Cubans, outside but especially inside Cuba, ease Castro out of power. The sooner the better. Joel, Linda?
There's been quite a redo of this whole crisis, and we now know we were very, very close to a nuclear war.
We were absolutely on the edge. They were the most fateful days in history, the New York Times said, and I don't think that's an exaggeration.
That's right. Right, Norman, thanks very much. There's a new study that finds that allowing parents to pick the school their child attends may not improve his or her education. The Carnegie Foundation says that parents should concentrate on improving conditions within their child's current school instead of taking the effort to send them elsewhere. The study found that most parents don't want to choose another school for their children. Instead, they would rather see their neighborhood school improved.
Jerry's back to look ahead 5 days at ease.
Yes, sir. Actually, it looks pretty good. No,
okay.
No major storms coming in.
I have my command voice? Or
yeah, I don't know. You just took over once again, Joel. Clear skies and cooler tonight. We'll drop into the 30s tonight, so that's quite a bit cooler than last night. Last night we basically stayed near 50 for an overnight low, and tonight we drop all the way down to 38. So some colder air coming in. The 5-day outlook shows tomorrow's high at 58 with a northeast wind, but a lot of sun tomorrow. Then on Wednesday, we get up to 59. However, after that, a little bit colder. There's a chance for a brief shower, but it's a slight chance Thursday morning. Then Friday's high 52, and then finally on Saturday, 53. So you can see Wednesday night, we make a little bit of a change for Thursday, Friday, Saturday. A little bit colder, below normal, but not extremely cold.
This is the last week of October.
I know.
Listen, you eat out a lot, right?
I eat out a lot.
And you bring home the doggy bags to put in your new Tupperware?
Yes.
All that Tupperware.
All that Tupperware.
And you like spaghetti, right?
Yes.
Well, if you love spaghetti, but you're not crazy about those leftovers, here is Mr. Food to show how to spice up the dish when it's a day old.
So many of our favorite tastes today started out as necessity years ago when nothing went to waste. Like, here's one going around now that used to be made because of having leftover spaghetti. Today, it's purposely made to be a time saver. Here's how easy, and you can use any brands at all. We cook and drain a half-pound package of spaghetti and toss it with 2 tablespoons of butter or margarine or olive oil. Stir into it 2 beaten eggs mixed with a ½ cup of Parmesan and shape it all into a greased 10-inch pie plate. Now we spread on a cup of ricotta cheese, top it with a cup of spaghetti sauce, and a bottled one is fine. Bake it in a preheated 350 oven, 25 minutes. Remove it, sprinkle on a ½ cup of shredded mozzarella, give it 5 more minutes in the oven to get melty. Now when we pull it out, we sprinkle on a couple more tablespoons of Parmesan, we cool it about 10 minutes to get solid, and slices of way back when spaghetti pie. That's just as easy in a lighter version if you want. And if you'd like the recipe, just send a self-addressed stamped envelope marked spaghetti pie to me, Mr. Food, right here at the station, and we'll get it back to you for having a crunchy bottom main course or lunch or side dish or any meal, or make it ahead of time and rewarm it. Then when you want, quick, ooh, it's so good.
I think maybe a little whipped cream, don't you? If you'd like spaghetti pie, please send a stamped self-addressed envelope to Mr. Food, WLS-TV, Post Office Box 2790, Chicago, 60690-2790. Be sure to request spaghetti pie. Now that is really different.
I like leftover spaghetti, just as it is.
But you eat it for breakfast.
Yeah, I like it cold, straight from the refrigerator. It's better that way. After a final timeout, we will meet an unwanted resident at a New Orleans housing project. Finally today, some residents at a housing project in New Orleans got a neighbor they didn't bargain for. A little boy at the Florida project found a 2-foot-long alligator stuck in one of the sewage drains. Residents called the Audubon Zoo trying to catch it. It took the zookeepers about 35 minutes to snare the critter. They put the gator in a cooler for the ride to his new home at the zoo's Louisiana Swamp exhibit. So far, nobody has reported a missing pet. See you later.
You know what they call that when they take a
Go ahead.
like an alligator out of the sewer like that? That's Gatorade.
It's Gatorade.
Gatorade.
See you later, Joel.
Okay.
That's Eyewitness News at 4 today. I'm Linda Yu.
I'm Joel Daly. The news at 5 continues now with John and Diane.
I think Steve had the best reply. That's a crock. Well, signs tonight that life is getting better at Cabrini Green. More sweeps and a gang truce, but Russ Ewing reports why residents are skeptical. And a stretch of Interstate 57 has a deadly distinction.
Also coming up, backers and opponents of casino gambling are back at it again. And it's a bird, it's a plane, no, it's a comet. And it's coming our way. Eyewitness News at 5 is next.
For the Chicago area's leading news, turn to Eyewitness News with Linda Yu, Sylvia Perez, and Jerry Taft. Tomorrow morning at 11:30.